Hello everyone and welcome to Sorted Food.
Now our friend and Chef Ben has got himself a new flatmate who's been keeping him very busy recently.
If I'm completely honest, it's been a threesome. I've got two of them. A 37-in-1 automatic bread maker, and I thought, let's try a bunch of recipes to show them off.
It's our own fault, it's our own fault.
We did that.
It's our own fault.
We did that to the world. Ebbers, it's 6 p.m.
Look, so often we take these machines out of the box, we read the manuals, we demo them, and we often say, oh, it's got a timer on it, you can set it in advance. Well, that is the beauty of a bread machine, is you can wake up to freshly baked bread. So we can get 2 loaves on the go now, and we can come in the morning, and they'll be ready. Loaf number 1, classic bloomer, and we'll make it seedy.
It's a good place to start when testing a bread maker.
It's got the kneading fork, it's probably got a technical name. That gets plugged in, and then we weigh into it strong white bread flour, 400 grams.
You're a chef. Why do you want or need an automatic bread maker?
That's a very good question.
Good question.
As a chef, there is nothing more therapeutic than kneading bread and letting it prove and bake, but you'd have to be up several hours before you want that fresh bread. 15 grams of butter, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt. Very important to add water, 280 ml. That's everything, so you can plug the machine in. And the next thing is in yellow. It is yeast, 3/4 teaspoon, and it needs to go into the yeast dispenser. Once you've done a lot of the mixing and kneading at the appropriate time, it will dispense the yeast into here.
Why are you saying grey then yellow?
The first colours all alternate and go in the bread bin. The yellow goes in the yeast dispenser, it's the yeast, and then the blue bits go in the other dispenser, this side, because that will drop in at the relevant time. A tablespoon of each. We're using pumpkin seeds, linseeds and sunflower seeds.
He loves it because it's colour-coded.
I hate it because it's coloured.
I don't know why, sesame seeds and poppy seeds both went into here. They're much smaller, so maybe in the knead it's less of an issue in the gluten structure, whereas these are the bigger seeds and drop in afterwards. I would guess, but I actually don't know. I'm literally just following it. And then you can set a timer delay. If you just push go, it will just go, and this one will be ready in 4 hours time. Or you can delay that so that it is ready in whenever you want, and we'll have it ready for first thing in the morning. So, with the second machine, overnight, let's do a different bread. How about from menu 8, maple and pecan nut loaf? So this time, half wholemeal, half plain flour, and we're gonna add nuts and maple, so it's a lot sweeter. But otherwise, it's an exact repeat. When you use wholemeal flour, you have to use different ratios of water, sometimes different proving times and temperatures. You might knead it differently because it's all going to have a different sort of protein gluten structure.
I'm quite liking the sound of it already because we're making 2 different breads and I don't have to know about kneading times, proving times.
It seems like a gadget that takes the fuss out of something as amazing as bread.
Yeast in the dispenser, pecan nuts in the dispenser, set all the timings, and I'll see you at 7:30 in the morning for 2 loaves of bread. Good morning. Let's see if we got the smell of fresh bread as we let ourselves into the studio. Smells great. 9 minutes left on the bake on both machines, and we'll just whip it out. And the only one here to enjoy the fresh bread. I wonder where the normals are.
We're here and we have bread.
Loaf number 1.
Yes.
5 seeded.
How's that cutting? How's that looking? I mean, it smells amazing.
You can hear it's slicing through the crust. I think what's important when we put things in it, like seeds, is how well and evenly dispersed those seeds are. Have they all sunk to the bottom? Looks pretty good. It's springy, it's elasticy.
It's crust on the outside, but a flop in the middle.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Oh.
Cheers, Ebbers.
It's excellent.
There is nothing like fresh bread.
It will not last as long as a shop-bought loaf because it hasn't got those preservatives in it. However, when it's that good and that small, and remember it's only a medium loaf, if there's a few in the household or a family, you'd get through it easy. That's the classic loaf. Yes, we put seeds in it, but it's a 4-hour cycle.
And can you rest it in the machine, or does it need to rest on like a tray?
It will beep at you when it's done, and you're better off to try and lift it out within a few minutes of it finishing, which is why you'd set the timer, because otherwise it's going to stay in a hot oven and kind of steam.
Okay, basic loaf. It works. It's great.
Tick.
Second loaf, wholemeal. I think the key here is we put whole pecans into that, but they are evenly dispersed throughout the whole loaf. To get that in your bread is, I think, quite a good thing.
The smell of the maple is really coming through that.
Syrup, can't you? That is amazing. Okay, cheers.
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 I would still say that this is savoury with some sweetness. It's absolutely delicious.
Texture-wise, it's got more of a chew to it. I feel like I'm chewing through maple syrup a bit more.
Yeah, that's so right.
Which is as much the whole grain as well, because obviously you've got the added fibre, bran, all the bits and pieces, as opposed to the ground flour.
So 2 loaves down, they're the same shape. Am I right in assuming that you can only get that shape regardless of the bread that you're making?
Yes. Now, this is where, for me, the machine says 37 in 1. I kind of think it really only does 3 things.
Oh, there's that balance.
However, some of those things have infinite possibilities. So what it essentially does is kneads, proves and bakes loaves that size, or makes a dough that you then handle.
In the same way a stand mixer does.
Yep. But with perfect proving, adding in the elements at the right time, or cooks a batter that you have handled.
Like an oven.
Like an oven. You need to make the cake in a bowl, mix it, make a cake batter, and then you just put it in there to bake.
That batter that it cooks for the cake, does it cook it that shape?
Yes.
Right. Interesting.
The reason I don't want to test the cake is because I think you'll get the idea. What it won't do is a sponge cake. The good thing about a sponge cake is it will go in the oven and it hits 180 degrees Celsius and you get an immediate rise in a cook. This will go in and will slowly come up to temperature and bake. So it is perfect for soda bread, cornbread, carrot cakes,
nice.
Like marzipan, fruit cakes that are much denser and need a longer, slower, gentler cook.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Come on then, what are we testing next?
So I think the next thing to test is the dough and doing stuff that won't come out of that shape. I thought, Barry, you might like to make some focaccia.
Would I?
When I took the loaf out this morning, I put into the machine something which is just beeping. So on the right-hand side, lift it up.
Ooh.
Flour, olive oil, salt, sugar, and yeast. Set it on a 45-minute cycle, and what you should have is perfect focaccia dough.
Oh, that is magical.
That is smooth.
Normally, if you were doing this yourself, you'd get lots and lots of kneading until it is silky smooth and elastic, like that. But then you need to leave it to prove. What that's done is knead it, and for a length of time at the perfect temperature, it has allowed it to relax and do what you've done, which is why it's warm. So it's acting kind of as a half-proving space as well.
Straight away with focaccia as well, I know that like to get that dough, it's quite a wet mix.
Absolute pros when they're making focaccia. It tends to be a little bit wetter and sloppier, almost pouring it into the dish. So
Wetter
that's a
is
little bit
better.
drier.
Okay.
But what you're going to do now is smother that tin in olive oil, then press that out into the base of the tin, cover it with more oil, and we'll leave it to prove, this time at our own room temperature, until it's doubled in size.
So when I've made focaccia in the past, you bring the dough together and then you leave it to double in size. So this didn't double it in size when it came straight out, and it will still work.
Well, I don't know, we'll try.
And then again, it's like you put it into here, stretch out to the corners. Usually you let it prove again, but the instructions are saying some whatever flavours you want on top.
Now,
then let it prove, and then drizzle over the oil.
interesting.
And it says that that needs to prove for about half an hour at 40 degrees Celsius. Now, unless you've got a proving oven or you live somewhere in the tropics, you're probably not going to achieve that. So I would actually say at 20 degrees, which is probably what it is in here, for twice that. But it does say until it's doubled in size.
Cover and just leave it.
Cover, leave it to one side, and what we'll do is do the final drizzle of oil, generous pinch of sea salt, and it goes into a hot oven, 220 degrees, until it bakes.
Perfect.
Next up, pasta.
Oh.
Pasta come on the other side of this.
It doesn't extrude it. You're not going to lift up the machine and find a pile of spaghetti in there. What it will do is get the pasta dough to a stage that you can wrap it in cling film, leave it to rest until you're ready to turn it into whatever shape you want. So it does the original kneading process and making the pasta dough perfectly smooth. If you haven't got the time, you haven't got the ability, the dexterity to knead,
Good point.
then this machine will do that. What is this machine doing that a stand mixer couldn't do? Nothing, but maybe you don't have a stand mixer.
Usually you're making pasta at home, you just go 100 grams to 1 egg and then scale up that, keep it really simple, and a pinch of salt. Here, they want 450 of flour and 250 of eggs. Our 2 eggs come to 116, not 250. Then just to top the rest up with water.
Right. So it's 2 eggs plus water until you get to 250.
But that's going to be half egg, half water.
Yeah, you can make pasta without any egg. Most of the pasta you buy in a store is eggless.
Right, then just pop it in. So that's got 20 minutes left. Then we need to wrap it, rest it, cut some pasta out, make a dish and eat it.
Next up, Mike, you're going to do a bread 3-cheese Italian style.
One of those is blue cheese.
Now I've picked it because putting cheese into bread changes the way that dough behaves.
So standard, strong white bread flour.
So this comes from the Italian bread section, which gives you a slightly lighter area bread. What it does is you can't use the raisin and nut dispenser. Everything has to be in from the start. Now, I don't really know why, other than it's refusing to open a window, which means everything that happens is sealed from start to finish. So that may well be that it's protecting heat, temperature, steam levels, and everything in there to give you that light, airy texture.
So then in with my cheeses. You've taken an amazing Italian cheese and put blue cheese in its place.
No, that's dolcetta. It's a soft Italian blue cheese.
It's disgusting. It's not going in. We're making we're making a 2 cheese.
Just tip the whole plate in.
240 ml of water. So in it goes. In with 3/4 teaspoon of yeast. Program 12, 4 hours, 30 minutes. Now, Ebbers, I have noticed the amount of yeast has changed each time. Whereas whenever I've followed any sort of bread or dough recipe, it's always been a sachet of yeast or 8 grams.
Basically, it will depend on the amount of time you give it. This is so much more controlled that you can use less yeast if it's a bit warmer, or less yeast if it's a bit longer, because we know what yeast needs. It needs sugar, it needs time, it needs temperature, it needs water. If any one of those vary, then the yeast can also vary. This takes that into account. So it is more precise, which is why hopefully we'll see a difference in the texture between the Italian style and the style we had before. So a hint of maple aside, it's all been very savoury so far. I thought, Jay, how about some Chelsea buns?
Oh,
Yes, I like a Chelsea bun.
So this morning, I put in a batch of enriched dough. So that is your flour with added things like sugar, milk powder, beaten egg, salt, sugar, yeast. And it's been doing its thing for 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's just beeped. You can open it up and crack on.
Let's get it out.
So when you say a dough is enriched, apart from the ingredients that go into it, what happens to that dough then?
If you remember, we ever make donut dough or brioche dough, often takes a bit longer to prove, a bit longer to kind of come together and do its thing, and therefore it's quite a lengthy, timely process and very sticky to do by hand because of the added liquid and egg.
Gotcha.
Good in a stand mixer, very sticky by hand.
Did you just slap that bread?
That is
Naughty.
smooth. Yeah. Sorry, I was quite enjoying that.
You're going to start shaping some Chelsea buns. Essentially, the machine has only done the first of 5 instructions.
Knead the dough lightly and roll out to an oblong 26 centimetres by 20 centimetres.
I got excited about dough, and incorrectly because I made an assumption. I thought maybe it might be a proving oven as well. I've struggled with making bao doughs, enriched doughs in the past in my flat. For whatever reason, it doesn't rise. I was hoping that I could do the mixing, kneading, put it in there, and it prove at the perfect temperature. It won't do that job for me, will it?
You're right, that is not a proving draw. All it will do is get the dough ready to the point where you begin to shape it. You can see the bubbles, even having Jamie rolled it out, they're beginning to already form. The yeast is active in there.
I'm now going to roll up from the longest side and then cut into 8 to 10 slices.
Exactly the same method you could use for cinnamon rolls, some of the cardamom rolls and cardamom buns we've done before.
Arrange in a greased sandwich tin and allow to prove at 40 degrees Celsius until doubled in size, approximately 20 minutes, or room temperature, 20 degrees, twice as long. They're then going to go into an oven at 225 degrees for 15 minutes, or until golden brown. We'll let them cool and then glaze them.
Last but not least, I picked another one out of the book that I haven't tried, but I thought you might like to. A rye and stout loaf.
Nice.
I'd like to try that, that is true.
So it's a good excuse to use a different kind of flour, a rye flour, and subbing out the water for a different liquid.
So rye bread is like really tight and dense bread, right?
Much more so. Oh, that's a lot of water. Plus your stout.
220.
Yeah, no, you're almost certainly right. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be almost wholly stout.
This is 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. That's a lot.
Very heavy bread. Needs a little yeast to boost it.
And that needs 3.5 hours.
I'm going to ask you a question that probably a lot of people are asking. Sourdough. It's got a sourdough function.
What it recommends, I haven't tried this, but you take the measuring jug and you put your starter ingredients in and then put it into there, and it's a 24-hour setting. so it keeps it at the perfect temperature for 24 hours, which is a very quick way of making a cheats starter. So not one you feed and replenish for like a week or months, but you'll get to something in 24 hours that will have that lactic sour. Then you add in all the other ingredients and you put the kneading blade in, and then you can turn it into a sourdough, which should give you the sourness, the chew, and hopefully the crust like you've cooked in a Dutch oven.
Did you know that our 37-in-1 automatic bread making machine will make jam?
No, I wasn't expecting that actually.
And compotes. You pop in apples, grated or finely chopped, some blackberries, some sugar, and some pectin.
So it just heats that up?
And stir. So it's going to constantly stir and heat it for a length of time that will give you a compote or a jam. And there's a handful of recipes there, aren't there?
Yeah.
Do come on into my bakery.
I'm intrigued for this. Oh, you've done some slicing.
I've done some slicing.
Oh,
yes.
Well, what do I go for? Do I go for that? I'll have some pasta.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. To bread.
To bread. The rye, very, very savoury because of the stout, very chewy, very dense, very delicious, and well baked.
It is that use of different flours. There's also recipes for spelt flour, the rye flour, the whole grain flour, but also gluten-free flours that the machine also has functions for. Not tested those, but basically ways of incorporating structure into gluten-free flours.
So that's going to be very useful for a lot of people.
I got the 3 cheese bread. It is very light and fluffy, but with a really great crust. The smell is so cheesy, but the taste actually isn't overwhelming cheese.
I got pasta out of a bread machine, and I think you can tell. Because it's like, you know how like with good pasta, throw it in the fridge, sticks, I get the feeling it's going to bounce back and hit you in the face.
So it didn't roll out as much as we expected, as in it was quite elastic, almost over-kneaded in that time. Oh. It's good pasta, it's far from excellent. Dig in on some focaccia, because that's a wonderful texture.
It doesn't look like the one I made.
Oh no. Despite the fact that we'd filmed this over 2 days and overnight, I tried to do too much at once, and we put the yeast into the machine when it was still hot from a previous loaf, and I think it killed the yeast. So the first batch, which you did with the rosemary, did not rise the way it should. So I did another batch, we'd run out of rosemary, so I put some sliced potatoes on, and it did what it should have done because the machine was cold when it went in.
Now, I have had bubblier focaccia in my local bakery, I am going to say that. But for making something at home, that's as good, if not better, than anything I've made.
What about the Chelsea buns?
Tear and share.
That is naughty.
Oh, that is syrupy, which is everything I want from a Chelsea bun. Soft, fluffy, syrupy.
Okay, Ebbers, price-wise, what are we talking here?
So we paid for that machine about £240. So still not a cheap bit of kit.
Okay.
As a normal, this can help me get really consistent results every single time without having to know the detail of how I got there.
I'd agree, but I really enjoy the idea of learning how to make things like focaccia or Chelsea buns or sourdoughs, and I don't think I'd use the machine for that. I'd rather play, but I think I'd use the machine just to make my weekly bread in. I think as part of my routine.
That's what I'd say. It makes a loaf of fantastic tasting bread as good as the freshest window of a bakery getting there within that 2-hour baking point. What it does with other things I think are less impressive personally, might be a little bit more on the expensive side for me, just for that purpose in my life.
For me, having lived with it, I think it's all about your lifestyle and your routine, because working this into my routine, there was nothing easier and more convenient than getting this variety of fresh bread from one machine. I don't need that much bread in my life. If there's multiple of you in a household, that is where something like this is great, because suddenly you can save so much money on fresh bread, because the ingredients that go into it are dirt cheap.
Could I spend less?
There's cheaper ones on the market that do a bit less.
What do you think of the bread machine? Would you fit this into your lifestyle? Would you come up with something a little bit cheaper, like Baz? Or would you have nothing at all and just hack it at home? Comment down below, let us know.
I think I speak for everyone though, that we all have food babies.
Yeah.
Lots of bread.
Dropping.
If I'm honest, I think I'm done with the menage a trois.
I think
you can have one back.
If we walk that way, it's all tuba music.
No, I'm going back for another one of these. Oh damn, that's sturdy. This is why I can't be trusted to film things. Where is the crew?